Dad law maxing is the art of collecting a diverse variety of unique stories and experiences often disparate from one another in order to maximize on your future children the effects of mystery, inspiration, and seeing you as Superman. I grew up as a very normal and happy and healthy child. I remember me and my friends, we would always go down to the local brook on our bikes and would have fun there messing around, or we'd be playing Fortnite or be playing Minecraft, and I would do cross-country running and I did taekwondo, and I had a very good, happy, healthy family. My parents, were never separated or anything like that. I had a very, very good family life. And in school, I would always be told, like, Sam, you're so intelligent, you're top of your class. And I would always be encouraged to follow whatever desires or paths that I wanted to try out and try and do, which I'm very grateful for, because I think that put me on a very, very good path. And I always had this thing inside of me telling me that in the most humble way that I was going to amount to greatness, and that I wasn't going to be normal and live a normal life, that there was something different about me. And I always had that feeling deep within me. And so when I was 11 years old in year 7 in secondary school in the UK, I remember seeing GeoWizard cross Norway in a completely straight line and succeed with his mission, pushing across harsh landscapes in peat bogs, kayaking across the water. Such a proper adventure. And I remember seeing that with such awe and really being inspired by it, laying on my bed late at night watching that before I was going to sleep. And I really got inspired, and I started, planning in my head how I could maybe convince my dad to let me do some sort of similar adventure with him. And I remember getting out of my bed and going down onto the floor and just doing press-ups on my floor to start training and everything. This is when I was 11 years old, and I was really influenced by GeoWizard doing his straight line missions, the adventure, the stories that come from that. And I mean, I ended up completely forgetting about it, but at that age, it definitely influenced me, because from there on out, I kind of always wanted to be achieving something. I didn't want to just, sort of flow along with life. I always had this thing inside me where I wanted to achieve things, where I wanted to make something of myself and actually do something in life. I didn't just want to, sort of go with the flow of things. And, you're probably pretty similar if you're watching this video. And from there, my focus for a time shifted to being a professional Fortnite player.
Nice! Yes! Yeah!
After that, I tried being a professional Fortnite montage editor. And I was pretty happy with my life at the time. I was enjoying making my YouTube videos. I was enjoying the Fortnite competitions. I had good friends online who I'd play games with. And I was, pretty content with my trajectory. Until I was 13 years old, when I asked out a girl who I'd had a crush on for 2 years. And to put a somewhat long story short, I got rejected. That rejection really put me into a low, because it wasn't just a rejection. She said yes, and we went on like one walk, we were sort of texting for like 3 weeks, until after a few weeks she was like, no, I'm not interested anymore. And I went from sky high to rock bottom, and I was in a really, really big low. But it lit a fire beneath me. And at the time, my dad, who has always lifted weights his entire life, started getting me into lifting weights too. He started also getting me into mountain biking, which is what he did as well. And at the time, I was also starting to get back into doing cross-country running like I did when I was younger. And I also started seeing videos on my YouTube homepage from the self-improvement YouTuber Hamza, as he was blowing up with his Jeffrey and Adonis videos. And all of this put together, the fire under me from the girl rejecting me, my dad getting me into working out and biking, and Hamza's YouTube videos, all together, it culminated into me realizing that I do have agency in my life, that as a young man, I can control my life, I can control where I go and what happens to me and my outcome. And I realized, and it's such an empowering realization, that I can choose to not be normal. And as I continue following this thing within me telling me that I'm not going to be normal, pulling me forwards, I continue down the path of self-improvement, watching the self-improvement YouTube videos, working out in my room until eventually one day I decide that I'm gonna start a self-improvement YouTube channel. And soon enough, I start the self-improvement channel. Eventually, I start self-improvement coaching from it too. And before I know it, within like 6 months, I'm making $2,000 per month as a 14-year-old self-improvement coach. And with that, I build an online brotherhood of other guys on self-improvement who I'm also helping. And I really just find this new mission within me, this new agency within my life, this new thing I can do, this new direction, which is purely mine. It's not like school where, you know, you can study, but it's not really what you're doing. This is mine, and I love it. However, in my beautiful pursuit of abnormality, following my mission, I sacrificed something massive. And that sacrifice was having any friends or any social connection whatsoever. Because everybody around me in school was just so normal, and you know, I was abnormal. I was a kid doing something different. I can't be normal. I'm better than them, and I can't be around them. And of course, I had this desire in me to just get away from school and to travel and to meet new people, you know, the guys I'm connecting with online, to finally meet them. But I'm still stuck in school. I'm like 14, I'm 15, I'm 16. I can't drop out. I can't go and do that. I'm still stuck in school. And so really, I sacrificed social connection massively. And this really, really pains me because every single day I'm there in school and, you know, I'm proud of my work, I'm proud of my mission, the money I'm making online, the people I'm helping with my YouTube videos. However, then I'm just sitting around surrounded by other young men, other young guys who also seem to be just as happy as me, except they're normal. And they're living the adventurous freedom of youth, being able to go out with their friends and have that adventure. And I'm just sort of, you know, cooped up in my bedroom, working online on YouTube videos, on coaching. You know, I'll be around them and I'll be all like sort of weirdly tense because they're all being social. I'm sort of not part of that tribe. And, you know, every now and then they're trying to take the piss out of me for my YouTube videos. And, you know, I'd have to push back on that, you know, just to stop myself from getting bullied. But really, it really hurt knowing that they had something I didn't, which was just simple, basic human connection. And so when my GCSEs began to come around, which are the final exams at the end of school in UK school in year 11, I began bringing it up to my parents about me potentially dropping out of school after finishing these exams. And at first, as any parents would, they pushed back on it. You know, you can't drop out, you've got to stay in school, you know, you've got to go to sixth form, or you've got to do your A-levels or go to a college after, you know, you finish these exams, and you've got to study that, and you've got, you know, you've got to have that safety net there. But I continued to push back on my parents. I made it abundantly clear to them that I absolutely hated school, sitting in a classroom, being forced down a path that I really didn't have any passion for, when I had my own path, which I was successfully forging, doing the online coaching and the online self-improvement videos and helping other young guys, which is work I loved and work I made money for. Like, you know, why should I go down and go to school and just sit in a classroom doing something I don't care, surrounded by normal people who I'm nothing like, who I feel weirdly tense around? And I made that abundantly clear to them. And I constantly pressured them, constantly brought it up. And I felt pain at pressuring my parents, but I knew I had this thing inside me, pushing me forwards, pulling me to not go down the normal path. And I continued to follow that to the point where I even had an entire plan where when it was time for me to go to the new school I was supposed to go to after the exams, to, like, you know, sign up and apply there for the day you're supposed to apply, I had a whole plan where I was gonna go into the woods and hide away so that it would sort of like fuck the application up, to potentially help convince my parents to let me drop out if the application was fucked up and I couldn't go to the good school they wanted me to go to. However, it never ended up coming to that, thankfully, because due to my sheer persistence and also due to my parents' willingness to be open-minded and let me do what I want to do in life, they permitted me to drop out. And so, I was dropped out from school after finishing my final physics exam on July 16th, 2025. And since then, I have navigated my entire life by the principle of dad, law, maxing. And so in the past year, I've collected a diverse variety of stories and experiences, very many quite disparate from one another. The first time I ever felt that I was dadlaw maxing was in August of 2025 when I was in Lisbon, Portugal with my good friend Vincent, and we were exploring the city in the evening and sunset began to come around, and we wanted to find a nice spot to watch the sunset from. And so we began to climb a hill, and on Google Maps and the satellite imagery I saw a pool. And we moved towards this pool before realizing that it's part of a big residential building. And the only way in for us, we tried all the doors, the only way in for us was to move a bin up to this wall and scale this big wall onto the balcony to get to the pool. And so that's what we did. And we snuck into this private pool and enjoyed the sunset from some random person's private pool. And that really was the first time that I ever had that mischievous social interaction that you're supposed to have when you're young. On the very same trip, we also filmed a self-improvement documentary with the BBC, which is UK national and international TV. In October last year, me, my dad, and the same friend Vincent were in Wales planning on climbing the hardest route up the highest mountain in Wales, Crib Goch, up to Snowdon. And we did end up climbing Crib Goch on that trip to Wales. However, our first attempt ended up in us climbing 5 wrong mountains in the complete opposite direction, an absolute navigational fuck up. So we went the wrong way and we climbed the wrong peak. I don't know what peak we're on.
The opposite side.
Really, you should have realized because you can see the ocean all around that way. But it was an absolutely awesome adventure. In Poland in October, we organized a huge Polish self-improvement meetup. And the gym that we were all planning on going together was physically too small for all of us to fit inside of it. And so we did a pull-up competition outside the gym while trolling people who were going into the gym, pretending that the gym was closed and we were walking out outside. On that same trip to Poland, me and my friend Vincent spontaneously booked a bus at 4 AM to go to the mountains. And we arrived there at the mountain town in -4 degrees Celsius weather in just shorts and t-shirts. We then climbed a 2,000 meter peak with no food apart from a singular raw sausage, drinking mountain water, and with absolutely no ice climbing gear whatsoever while going up the snow and ice. And at the end of the day, we had to run down the mountain to make our bus back into the city. Then in August of this year, on my solo backpacking trip through France, I got caught in a thunderstorm while up in the hills in a forest of dead trees. And there were branches and trees flying horizontally everywhere. And I fortunately managed to safely descend the mountain, but when I was at the bottom, there were so many ambulances going back up the road that I was coming from, going back up to tend to the hikers who weren't so lucky in that thunderstorm. Then a few days later, in the mountains near Chamonix, I dropped my $1,000 camera out of my pocket without realizing I had dropped it. And when I did realize, I turned back. And on the very busy trail, I asked every single person if they had seen my camera. So I've dropped my camera somewhere here. Now, I didn't end up finding my camera. However, I had at least 50 good conversations with people that day while asking them if they had seen my camera or not. And that ended up really healing my social trauma from being in school with no friends after speaking to so many people and realizing that actually people are really kind and normal people are actually quite nice people. And actually I finished that day being glad I had lost my $1,000 camera because of the healing that had come from that. And on that same backpacking trip, I decided that I wanted to walk 100 kilometers through the French mountains from Italy to Monaco in just 4 days. And on the first day that I was supposed to be going there, I realized that I didn't have the right SD card for the new camera I had bought after I'd lost my old camera. And so the first day of those 4 days was spent walking 20 kilometers through random tiny Italian villages in some random part of Italy to get to some random shop, the nearest shop that was open that could sell SD cards, because it was like a Sunday evening and there was no more trains running. And I got the SD card, but I now only had 3 days to complete the walk. And so on the first proper day of that walk, I spent 6 hours descending down an old abandoned military road in an uninhabited valley just to get to the bottom after 6 hours to find that there is a huge, very active construction site at the bottom of the road, which was at the entrance of the tunnel that goes from France to Italy. And as I climbed the fence into this construction site, a very, very angry man sped past me in a car along the road with his sirens blaring, waving his fist at me, but he couldn't stop because there was loads of traffic behind him. And I managed to hide within that construction site and evade them, and eventually get to the front of the construction site, climbing over all the earthworks and climbing down weird concrete walls to get to the main road. And as I went through the main road, I realized that they had blocked off all the traffic going into the tunnel just because I had snuck into their construction site. And so I accidentally shut down the tunnel that goes from France to Italy. And I got away completely uncaught and unscathed. And then after that, I met some random Frenchman who decided to drive me to the top of the mountain, which I thought was helping me make progress on my route. But I then actually just had to descend straight back down the mountain to where I came. And I ended up being the most physically exhausted I have ever been in some random Italian village in France with no shops and no water and no food anywhere near me whatsoever. I was so close to passing out then. Now, these are just the best dad love stories I have that I've cherry picked out for this video, but I could go on and on and on with so many other small and interesting and funny stories where I've got cool and unique experiences. And these experiences now, they aren't just cool stories for me to tell my future children, for them to be inspired by me and for them to see me as Superman. But these experiences and these stories have really made me into a new person. And I don't mean that lightly because everybody says that. What I really mean by this is that these stories, these experiences have taught me things that nothing else ever could have. These experiences have truly made me into a new person. Losing my $1,000 camera in the mountains in Chamonix not only fixed my social skills and made me realize how kind normal people and strangers actually are, which really, really helped me and really healed me, but it also taught me about loss and how losing something, whether it be a camera or something very near and dear and close to you, is a very natural thing. And actually, loss can be a very good thing, and it can really teach you things and give you things that you could not have got otherwise, like me improving my social skills. And walking 100 kilometers from Italy to Monaco in just 3 days, through the mountains doing crazy elevation, while I was planning on only doing it in 4 days, really taught me that my limits are so much higher than I've previously thought them to be. I started those 3 days genuinely unsure whether or not I could do it. I gave it a 50-50 chance. And I realized that I did it, and that I probably could have done it a decent bit faster, and I probably could have still done a decent bit more distance if I really had to. And it taught me that my limits, and I don't say it was lightly, are so much fucking further than I ever realized. And heck, even that entire solo backpacking trip through France, it really fixed my social skills and just my entire social mindset, and this weird social trauma I got from being in school, because being in school surrounded by other kids who I felt that I was better than them because they're not on self-improvement, and who I wasn't involved in their friend groups and everything, so they're all laughing and I'm not laughing with them, I'm sort of excluded from that. It really, had a bit of trauma in me, and my sort of response to that, my subconscious natural response, was to see myself as better than them and almost be like, I don't care if they're happy because I'm better than them. I've got my mission of self-improvement and everything, I've got my mission of my YouTube. And, that sort of response made me feel less pain. But consequently, it's made it very, very hard for me to, or it made it very hard for me to just connect with normal people, because I would simply see myself as better than them. I would instinctually see them as stupid and unenlightened. And this 2-week backpacking trip across Europe solved that problem, which had plagued me for almost 5 years, in just 2 weeks. And it was so liberating to just simply be able to start a conversation with someone and connect with them after not being able to do that in 5 years. And just in 2 weeks, I can just do it, and I can be happy, and I can enjoy it, and I can solve a problem like that within myself, a fucking huge traumatic deep issue, a very, very deep line issue. 2 weeks, bang, solved. it's liberating, it's beautiful. And now going forwards, these experiences are going to help me so much. Fixing my social skills is the foundation to fixing my confidence in speaking to girls. And what I've learned from loss, from losing my camera, and actually realizing that, you know, loss is a painful thing and you're going to grieve to it, but there can be silver linings and it is a very natural process, is helping me deal with losing my countryside close to my house in the UK, which I've grown up with, which I hold very, very close to my heart, which they're now building houses on, which I'm now going to lose. And that, you know, really hurts me, that loss, because I'm so connected to these fields, which sounds so stupid, but I'm really connected to this countryside, which I've essentially grown up in, which they're now building houses on. But I'm finding it much easier to deal with that loss now, consciously understanding from losing my camera that loss is a natural process and it's necessary in life. And so now my mission is to teach you and other guys like you, and guys exactly like my younger self, the art of dad law maxing. I want to teach you to be able to leave your bedroom, to be able to leave your home, to put yourself into new environments, to get new experiences, to get out of the monotonous day-to-day routine of going to school and working your job, where you don't learn anything new, where you don't get any new experiences. I want to teach you to solve these deep issues within yourself, to liberate yourself from these big traumatic things, whatever it may be within inside you. Maybe like social skills for me, it was, you know, whatever it may be for you. So you can forge yourself into a new person, so that you can find your mission and follow your mission instead of being forced down some pre-made path in the education system, in the job system, so that you can control your future and essentially find your own purpose in life, your life's purpose, and follow that. Now, I know this is a very intangible and abstract thing, and I am working on the art of dad law maxing to make it more tangible and to make the advice of it more actionable and to make it more clear how you can also ameliorate yourself and completely change your life with it too. And I'm already in the process of doing that. I'm already in the process of following dad law maxing. Where we are right now, this is Tirana, the capital of Albania, and here I'm living with multiple other guys like my younger self, probably exactly like you, guys who were stuck in the education system, stuck in their jobs, who have now left their home countries to come here for all of us to live together and essentially, in a way, dad law max together. All of us who are now making money online, living with the freedom to choose our own paths in life. And man, we are progressing so fast being here. And my long-term mission with this, the biggest vision that I can see, goes so much further. And that is to reform the education system in the UK with these teachings. Instead of keeping young men trapped in the exact same day-to-day cycle in the classroom, being forced down the same path as everybody around them with no encouragement or facilitation to creativity or following their own paths or their own visions, and instead just being forced down a pre-made degree and a pre-made path where if they've got some sort of mission or passion or vision, they're told not really to follow it because it's not safe, and instead they have to go the safe route and, you know, just get the same job and all of that. Instead, I want to change that so that we can encourage young men to go out there into the frontier, into new environments, to get new experiences, to truly find themselves, to truly find their own purposes and their own visions, so that still guys can still get degrees and still get jobs and still, you know, fill the jobs and everything. But instead of, you know, everyone being forced down the same fucking shit, being told that they need to do the exact same shit that nobody wants to do or very, very few people want to do. Instead, we have more choice and freedom in that to forge our own paths and be more individual in that, instead of just being a fucking collective mass of people all getting degrees and getting jobs. And of course I can't do all that just yet. I mean, I'm not even fully clear on what dad law maxing even is, which is of course, you know, why I'm even making this video now. But I'm sure you can feel it too. This idea, which I've labeled dad law maxing, goes so much deeper than just dad law maxing. It's just simply the natural young man's spirit to go out there and explore into the frontier and leave home. And that's really what I'm now trying to facilitate and teach in the modern day. If you like this video and you like what I speak about and you potentially want to see more of this, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos like this in your YouTube recommendations, and that would really help me out too. Also, if you want to get into contact with me and you want to join a community of other guys like myself, like all of us here living together in Albania and other guys watching these videos, and I have a free community that you can join, and the link for that is in the description below. And there's no pressure if you don't want to join any of that, I just thought to mention it. I appreciate you watching the video and have an amazing day, man. Bye-bye.